Commander Do-hyun sat at his desk in the Korean Space Defense Force headquarters, staring at his morning coffee. It was just another quiet Tuesday morning in Seoul, or at least it was supposed to be. The peace was broken by a sudden, sharp beeping from his computer screen. At first, he thought it was just another space debris alert, but this sound was different. It was coming from all the communication systems at once. The giant screen on the wall lit up with strange symbols that kept changing shape. Do-hyun jumped to his feet, knocking over his coffee. He didn't even notice the hot liquid spreading across his desk. His eyes were fixed on the screen as the alien symbols transformed into Korean text. This is the Galactic Council reaching out to Earth's military command. The message read, "Your species has reached the required technological level for first contact. Please respond within your next solar rotation." Do-hyun reached for his phone with shaking hands and called Captain Hae-yun, his most trusted officer. "Hae-yun, you need to see this," he said, his voice surprisingly steady despite his racing heart. 20 minutes later, Hae-yun rushed into his office. Her usual neat appearance was slightly messy, showing she had run all the way from the training grounds. "Sir, are we sure this isn't a hack?" she asked, studying the message. "Our best tech team already checked. This is real," Do-hyun replied. "Whatever is sending this message has technology far beyond anything we've ever seen." As they discussed what to do, more text appeared on the screen. "Your species has shown remarkable progress in space technology. The Galactic Council offers Earth a chance to join our alliance. However, there is a test all new species must pass." Hae-yun leaned forward, reading aloud. "They want us to prove ourselves in something called the War Games." She looked at Do-hyun with concern in her eyes. "Yes," a new voice spoke, making them both jump. A hologram appeared in the middle of the office. It showed a tall, elegant being with silvery skin. "I am High Counselor Xith. The War Games are how we judge if a species is ready to join galactic society." Do-hyun stood straighter, falling back on his military training. "What exactly are these games?" "Your species will face the Artaxians, one of our most accomplished military forces, in a controlled battle scenario," Sith explained. "You will be given standard galactic weapons and ships. This ensures fair competition." Hae-yun stepped forward. "And if we win?" "Then Earth joins the Galactic Council as a full member," Sith replied. "If you lose, you must wait 100 years before trying again." Do-hyun and Hae-yun shared a look. They both knew this was humanity's biggest test. "We accept," Do-hyun said firmly. Sith's expression changed slightly, almost like a smile. "Excellent. You have 30 Earth days to prepare your forces. Remember, this is a civilized competition. We have strict rules about how war should be conducted." After the hologram disappeared, Hae-yun turned to Do-hyun. "Sir, did you notice? They keep talking about rules and proper ways to fight. They're treating war like it's some kind of formal dance." Do-hyun nodded slowly, a small smile forming on his face. "Yes, and that might be exactly why we have a chance. While they're following their rulebook, we'll show them how humans really fight." The commander looked out his window at the Seoul skyline, thinking about the challenge ahead. Humanity had never backed down from a fight, and they weren't about to start now. They just needed to do what humans did best: adapt, improvise, and overcome. Unknown to both Do-hyun and Hae-yun, their conversation had already set in motion events that would change the galaxy forever. The Galactic Council had no idea what they had just invited into their carefully ordered universe. They were about to learn why humans had survived and thrived on their harsh, ever-changing planet for so long. Captain Hae-yun stood in front of a large screen showing pictures of Earth's best soldiers. She had spent 3 days looking through thousands of files to find the right people for this mission. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the sound of Commander Do-hyun drinking his coffee. "These are the ones," she said, pressing a button on her tablet. 5 faces appeared on the main screen. They're different from what the aliens might expect. Do-hyun walked closer to the screen, studying each face. "Tell me about them," he said. Hae-yun pointed to the first picture. Lieutenant Kita. He grew up in the mountains and learned to hunt before he could walk. He doesn't just think outside the box. He's never seen the box. She smiled, remembering how Kita had once won a training exercise by climbing a cliff everyone thought was impossible to climb. The next picture showed a woman with short hair and bright eyes. Sergeant Lee-jin. She was a professional gamer before joining the military. She can process information faster than our best computers and see patterns nobody else notices. Do-hyun nodded as Hae-yun moved to the third picture. Corporal Minho. He used to fix cars in his family shop. Give him any machine, and he'll figure out how it works. More importantly, he'll figure out how to make it work better. The fourth picture showed a tall man with a serious face. Private Jae-won. He studied ancient warfare in college before joining us. He knows every trick humans have ever used in battle, from stone axes to spaceships. The last picture made Do-hyun raise his eyebrows. Isn't she a medic? Yes, Medical Officer Sun-young, but she's also an expert in alien biology. She's been studying all the data the Galactic Council sent us. If anyone can understand our opponents, it's her. Just then, the door opened and all 5 team members walked in. They stood straight and saluted, but Hae-yun could see the excitement in their eyes. These were people who lived for challenges. At ease, Do-hyun said, "You all know why you're here. The aliens have given us their weapons to practice with. Let's see what you can do with them." In the training room, the team found the alien weapons laid out on tables. They looked beautiful, like art pieces made of silver and blue metal. Kita picked up what looked like a rifle and frowned. "These are too perfect," he said. "Look, no dirt can stick to them, no parts can break. They're made so nothing can go wrong." Minho was already taking one apart, his fingers moving quickly. "They're amazing, but they're limited. They only work exactly as they're supposed to work. No room for tricks." Yi-jin tested the weapon's targeting system. It's like they're playing a game with only one way to win. But that's not how humans play games. Sun-young studied the medical equipment. Their healing tools are powerful, but they only work one way. They haven't thought about using them differently. Jae-won watched everyone work and smiled. "You know what this reminds me of? The Roman army. They had perfect formations, perfect equipment, but they lost to people who didn't fight the way they expected." Hae-yun listened to them all and felt her confidence grow. The aliens had given them standardized weapons, thinking it would make the fight fair, but they didn't understand that humans could take anything and make it their own. "All right," she said, clapping her hands. "Let's show them what humans can really do. We have 27 days to turn their perfect weapons into something they've never seen before." The team got to work immediately. As Hae-yun watched them take apart alien technology and put it back together in new ways, she knew the Galactic Council had made a big mistake. They thought giving everyone the same tools would make everyone fight the same way. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The meeting room felt too small for High Counselor Sith. The alien's tall, silvery form seemed to make the space shrink. Commander Do-hyun, Captain Hae-yun, and their team sat around the table, watching as Sith turned on a hologram showing a detailed map of space. "These are the approved battle zones," Sith said, pointing at glowing blue areas. "All combat must happen in these spaces. Fighting outside these areas is not allowed." Lieutenant Kita raised his hand. "What if the fight naturally moves outside these zones?" "It won't," Sith said firmly. "Both sides must stay in the designated areas. This is how civilized species wage war." Hae-yun noticed how Kita's eyes narrowed slightly. She knew he was already thinking about the edges of those zones, about what might be just beyond them. Sith continued, showing them different types of ships and weapons. "These are the approved formations for space combat. Ships must maintain these patterns at all times." The hologram showed neat rows of spacecraft, moving in perfect lines. Sergeant Yi Jin spoke up. "What happens if a ship breaks formation?" "That would be against regulations," Sith replied, looking confused. "Why would any ship break formation?" Do Hyun quickly jumped in before Yi Jin could answer. "Please continue, High Counselor." A hologram changed to show ground combat scenarios. Infantry units must move in groups of 10. Each group must have 2 heavy weapon operators, 6 standard troops, and 2 medics. This balance has been calculated for optimal performance. Corporal Minho was studying the weapons closely. "Are we allowed to modify our equipment?" "Modify?" Sith's silver skin seemed to ripple. "The equipment is perfect as it is. Why would you need to change it?" Private Jai-1 caught Hae-Yun's eye and smiled slightly. He had been taking notes, but Hae-Yun could see he was also drawing little diagrams in the margins. She knew he was comparing these rules to ancient battle tactics. Medical Officer Sun Young raised her hand next. "What about treating wounded soldiers? Are there rules for that too?" "Of course," Sith said, showing medical protocols. "Injured units must be moved to designated healing zones. Combat must stop while medical teams work. Both sides must respect this pause." As Sith went through more rules, Hae-Yun watched her team's reactions. They all had the same look. The look of people seeing opportunities where others saw restrictions. Every rule the aliens made was like a new puzzle for them to solve. After 2 hours, Sith finished the presentation. "These rules ensure that war remains civilized and fair. They have worked for 10,000 years. Do you understand them?" "Yes," Do Hyun said, standing up. "We understand completely." After Sith left, the team stayed in the room. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then Kita let out a long breath. "They really think war can be controlled like this?" he asked. "They've never fought humans before," Jai-1 said, still drawing in his notebook. "They don't know that humans have broken every rule of war ever made." Hae-Yun looked at her team. "Remember, we don't need to break their rules. We just need to use them in ways they haven't imagined." Minho grinned. "Like how a wrench is meant to tighten bolts, but it can also be a hammer if you need it to be." "Exactly," Do Hyun said. "They gave us a box of tools and told us exactly how to use them. But they forgot that humans have always been good at finding new ways to use old tools." As they left the room, Hae-Yun thought about all the rules they had just learned. The aliens had spent thousands of years making war neat and organized. They were about to learn that real war, human war, was anything but neat. Lieutenant Kita lay flat on his stomach, watching the Artaxian troops through his binoculars. The alien soldiers moved in perfect lines, just as the rules said they should. Their blue armor gleamed in the artificial light of the battle arena. Everything about them was exactly as the training manual described. Kita smiled. The Artaxians were doing everything right, which meant they were doing everything predictably. He touched his communication device. "Captain Hae-Yun, they're following the standard formation. 10 soldiers, 2 heavy weapons, exactly like the rules say." In the command center, Hae-Yun nodded. She was watching multiple screens showing different parts of the battlefield. "Good. Are your teams ready?" "Yes, Mom. Though the Artaxians might not approve of how we arranged our forces. Instead of the required groups of 10, Kita had split his soldiers into smaller teams of 3. The rules said nothing about how troops should be arranged before battle. They only specified the formation during active combat. "Begin the operation," Hae-Yun ordered. "Remember, we're not breaking any rules. We're just being creative with them." Kaita gave the signal. His teams started moving. They didn't march in straight lines like the Artaxians. Instead, they crawled through artificial trenches, used shadows for cover, and moved like hunters stalking prey. The Artaxians noticed something was wrong when Kita's teams didn't appear where they were supposed to. According to the rules of engagement, both armies should meet in the middle of the designated battle zone and begin their carefully planned sequence of combat. "What are they doing?" one Artaxian commander asked over an open channel. This is not the proper way to start a battle. Kitez's teams were now behind and beside the Artaxian forces. The aliens were still facing forward, waiting for the humans to appear in front of them, as the rules suggested they should. Now, Kitez ordered. His teams emerged from their hiding spots all at once. They quickly joined into the proper groups of 10, exactly as the rules required. But by then, they had already surrounded the Artaxian forces. The aliens tried to adjust, but their formations were too rigid. When they turned to face one human team, another team would attack from a different direction. The Artaxians couldn't break their formations. It was against the rules. But the humans would quickly form proper groups for fighting, then split up again for movement. This is not proper combat protocol. The Artaxian commander protested. Check the rules, Kitez replied calmly. We're maintaining correct combat formations whenever we engage. The rules don't say anything about what we do between engagements. In the command center, Hao-Yun watched as the Artaxian forces were slowly pushed back. Their perfect formations were becoming a perfect trap. They couldn't adapt because they didn't know how. Sergeant Yi-Jin, who was analyzing the battle data, grinned. They fight like they're playing chess, where every piece has to move in specific ways. We're fighting like we're playing every game at once. Commander Do-hyun watched from his position. He could see the confusion in the Artaxian ranks. They were experienced warriors, but they had never faced an enemy who changed their strategy from moment to moment. Within 2 hours, the battle was over. The Artaxian forces had been completely outmaneuvered. They hadn't lost because the humans were stronger or had better weapons. They had lost because they couldn't understand how humans could follow the rules while fighting in such an unpredictable way. As Kitez's teams reformed into proper units for the victory ceremony, Hao-Yun noticed something interesting on her screens. The Galactic Council observers were talking among themselves, and they looked worried. They had just seen something they had never seen before, warfare that followed all their rules but looked nothing like their rules intended. The humans had won their first battle, but more importantly, they had shown the galaxy something new. There was more than one way to follow the rules. Research Officer Yu-Jin stood before the Galactic Council, her tablet computer filled with thousands of years of human military history. The council chamber was massive, with tall silver walls that seemed to reach forever. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising circles around her, all watching with worried eyes. Please explain, High Counselor Xith said, how humans learned to fight this way. Yu-Jin took a deep breath. She had spent the last week preparing for this presentation. To understand human warfare, you must first understand Earth, she began. Our planet is always changing. We have deserts, icelands, forests, and oceans. To survive, humans had to adapt to all of these places. She showed them images of Earth's different environments. Many council members leaned forward, interested despite their concerns. In our history, armies that couldn't adapt would lose, Yu-Jin continued. She showed them ancient battles, carefully chosen to make her point. Here's an example. A small Greek army once defeated a much larger Persian army by making them fight in a narrow space. The Persians couldn't use their normal fighting style, but the Greeks had learned to adapt. One council member raised a hand. But surely as weapons improved, warfare became more organized. Yu-Jin shook her head. Actually, it made us even more creative. She showed them pictures of World War II. Look at these soldiers. Their leaders gave them basic equipment, but they modified everything to work better in their specific situation. A gun became a climbing tool. A cooking pot became a helmet. A truck became a tank. The council chamber filled with worried whispers. This was not how civilized species were supposed to think about military equipment. But you understand proper warfare now, another council member said. You've learned about our rules and formations. We understand them, Yu-Jin agreed. But understanding rules and being limited by them are different things. Humans see rules as a starting point, not an ending point. She showed them Lieutenant Kitez's battle recordings. See how our soldiers followed every rule about formations. But they also found new ways to use those formations. The rules say groups of 10 must fight together. They don't say anything about how those groups can split up and come back together. High Counselor Xith stood up. This is very disturbing. Your species takes our carefully designed protocols and changes them while following them. Yes, Yu Jin said proudly. That's what humans do best. We take what exists and find new ways to use it. It's how we survived on Earth, and it's how we fight our wars. She showed them more examples. Soldiers using medical tools to repair weapons, communication devices modified to confuse enemy signals, and supply ships turned into surprise attack vessels. Every example followed the rules exactly, but used them in ways the Council had never imagined. The most important thing to understand, Yu Jin finished, is that this isn't just our military strategy. This is who we are as a species. We can't stop being adaptable any more than we can stop breathing. The council chamber was silent for a long time after she finished. The aliens looked at each other with worried expressions. They had created their war rules to make combat predictable and controllable. Now they faced a species that could make anything unpredictable while still following every rule. Finally, High Counselor Xith spoke. Thank you, Research Officer Yu Jin. The Council needs time to discuss what we have learned. Humanity's approach to warfare is unique in our experience. As Yu Jin left the chamber, she heard the Council members starting to debate. She smiled to herself. They still didn't understand. They thought they were investigating humanity's warfare methods, but they were really discovering something much bigger. They were learning why humans had survived everything their harsh planet had thrown at them. Commander Du-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul watching as the Artaxian fleet approached. The enemy ships moved in perfect formation, their silver hulls gleaming against the darkness of space. There were 3 times as many Artaxian ships as human ones. They're using Formation Pattern 6, Captain Hae-yun said, studying her display screen. Exactly as the rules specify for a force of their size. Do-hyun nodded. And they expect us to use Pattern 3, the defensive formation for a smaller fleet. He turned to his crew. Is everyone ready for what we're about to do? Sergeant Yi Jin looked up from her tactical station. All ships report ready, Commander. Though I must say, this plan is either brilliant or crazy. Maybe both. The Artaxian fleet drew closer. Their commander's voice came through the communication system. Human fleet, assume your defensive positions as per Regulation 647. Do-hyun smiled. Begin Operation Recycling. The human ships moved into the correct defensive pattern, just as the rules required. The Artaxians pressed forward, confident in their superior numbers and proven tactics. This was how space battles had been fought for thousands of years. Then Du-hyun gave the signal. Now, 3 human ships at the front of their formation suddenly lost power. They appeared to drift, disabled. According to the rules, damaged ships had to be evacuated, and the enemy had to allow time for rescue operations. The Artaxian fleet slowed, following protocol. But as they did, something unexpected happened. The disabled human ships hadn't been evacuated. Instead, their engines suddenly fired up again, but not to rejoin the battle. They flew straight at the Artaxian formation. This is irregular, the Artaxian commander protested. Damaged ships must withdraw from the combat zone. Check the rules, Hae-yun replied calmly. They only say damaged ships must be removed from battle. They don't specify how. The 3 human ships crashed through the perfect Artaxian formation, breaking it apart. They didn't fire weapons. They simply used their ships themselves as tools to disrupt the enemy's carefully planned patterns. Pattern 6 is now impossible for them to maintain, Yi Jin reported. They'll have to reform into a different pattern. This was exactly what Du-hyun had planned for. While the Artaxians tried to reorganize into a new formation, following all the proper procedures for changing patterns, the human fleet struck. They used the confusion to get inside the Artaxian fleet's formation. But the rules clearly state, the Artaxian commander began. "We're following every rule," Du Hyun interrupted. "We're maintaining proper combat formations. We're using approved weapons. We're even following safety protocols. We just found a different way to use our damaged ships." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human ships moved in and out of formations quickly, always in legal patterns, but changing those patterns faster than the Artaxians could respond. They used damaged ships not as things to be evacuated, but as tools to control the battlefield. In the end, the larger Artaxian fleet was forced to retreat. They hadn't lost because of superior human weapons or technology. They had lost because humans had seen possibilities in the rules that no other species had imagined. As Du Hyun watched the Artaxians withdraw, he knew this battle would change everything. The human fleet had won by following every rule while completely changing how those rules worked. They had shown the galaxy that even damaged ships could become useful tools in human hands. "Send a message to command," he told Hae-Yun. "Tell them we won, but they might not like how we did it." Hae-Yun nodded, already imagining how the Galactic Council would react to this new way of fighting. The humans hadn't broken any rules, but they had shattered every assumption about how those rules would be used. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with worried voices. Representatives from 100 different species sat in their places, all talking about the recent space battle. High Counselor Sith called for silence by raising all 4 of their hands. "We face an unprecedented situation," Sith announced. "The humans have won another victory, but their methods threaten everything we know about civilized warfare." Major Sunmei stood calmly in the center of the chamber. She had been chosen to represent Earth because she understood both human and alien ways of thinking. She watched as recordings of the battle played on large screens around the room. A representative from the Artaxian Empire stood up. "Look at how they used damaged ships as weapons. This goes against 10,000 years of space combat tradition." "With respect," Sun Mai replied, "the rules say damaged ships must be removed from battle. Our ships were indeed removed, just in a way that helped us win." A different alien, one with blue crystal skin, spoke next. "But that's not what the rules meant. You took our words and changed their meaning." "No," Sun Mai said. "We followed the exact meaning of your words. We just found new ways to use them. That's what humans do. We adapt." The recording showed how the human fleet had moved in ways no one had seen before. Each movement followed the rules perfectly, but together they created patterns that confused and defeated the much larger Artaxian force. "This is why we're here today," Sith said. "The humans don't break our rules. They simply use them in ways we never imagined possible. This makes them—" Sith paused, searching for the right word. "Unpredictable." Sun Me stepped forward. "Isn't that a good thing? We've shown how the rules can be used in new ways. We can teach others." "That's exactly what we're afraid of," another council member interrupted. "If other species learn to fight like humans, our entire system of organized warfare will fall apart." The chamber erupted in noise again. Some council members argued that humans were too dangerous to allow in galactic warfare. Others said that humans were proving the rules needed to change. A few even suggested that human creativity could make warfare better. "You don't understand," Sun Mai said, her voice cutting through the noise. "This isn't just about war. This is about survival. Humans learned to think this way because we had to. Our planet taught us that following rules isn't enough. You have to understand why the rules exist and how they can be used best." She showed them images from Earth's history. People surviving in deserts, jungles, and frozen wastelands. We had to adapt to survive. We had to learn to use everything around us in new ways. We can't stop thinking like this just because it makes warfare more complicated. High Counselor Sith watched the images thoughtfully. "So you're saying humans will always find new ways to use our rules, no matter what we do?" "Yes," Sun Mai answered honestly. "It's not because we want to cause trouble. It's because looking for new solutions is part of who we are. The council members looked at each other with worried expressions. They had created their rules to make warfare predictable and safe. Now they faced a species that could follow every rule while making everything unpredictable. As the debate continued, Sun Mei noticed something interesting. The council wasn't just afraid of human warfare. They were afraid of human thinking. They had discovered that giving humans any set of rules was like giving them a new tool to use in ways no one else had imagined. After 3 days of heated debate, the Galactic Council gathered for their final decision. The massive chamber felt heavy with tension. Commander Du Hyun, Captain He Yun, and Major Sun Mei stood in the center, waiting to hear humanity's fate. High Counselor Sith rose from their seat, silver skin reflecting the soft light. We have reviewed all evidence regarding human warfare methods. We have watched recordings of their battles, studied their history, and debated their approach to our rules. The council members sat perfectly still, many looking uncomfortable. They had spent thousands of years building a system of organized warfare, and humans had changed everything in just a few weeks. The humans have shown remarkable skill. Sith continued. They follow our rules perfectly. Yet somehow, they make those rules do things we never imagined possible. Do Hyun noticed how Sith said, never imagined possible, like it was something dangerous. He glanced at He Yun, who nodded slightly. They both knew what was coming. Let us review what we have seen, Sith said. First, humans split their ground forces in ways that followed our rules but completely changed how those rules worked. Then they used damaged ships as tactical tools, something no species has ever considered in 10,000 years of space combat. The Artaxian representative stood up. They make warfare unpredictable. How can we maintain order if everyone starts fighting like humans? Sun Mei stepped forward to speak, but Sith raised a hand to stop her. That is exactly our concern, Major Sun Mei. If other species learn to think like humans, our entire system of civilized warfare will change. But change can be good, Sun Mei argued. We've shown new ways to use your rules effectively. That is what worries us most, said a crystalline alien from the upper seats. You see rules as tools to be used in new ways. We see them as boundaries to be respected. Sith nodded solemnly. We have reached our decision. From this day forward, humans are banned from participating in galactic warfare. The chamber went silent. Du Hyun felt his heart sink, but then he noticed something odd. The council members didn't look triumphant. They looked nervous. This ban is not a punishment, Sith explained. It is a recognition that humans are too innovative for our system of warfare. You follow our rules too well, finding possibilities we never intended. He Yun's eyes widened as she understood. You're not really banning us from war, she said quietly. You're afraid of what will happen if others learn from us. Sith's skin rippled, showing their discomfort. Yes, your species has shown us that our rules can be used in ways we never imagined. If other species learn this lesson, it would change everything we have built. Do Hyun stepped forward. What exactly does this ban mean for Earth? It means no species may engage in warfare with humans. Sith answered. You are too unpredictable, too adaptive. Fighting humans would be unwise. As the human delegation left the chamber, they began to understand what had really happened. The council hadn't just banned them from war. They had given Earth the greatest protection possible. No species would dare start a war with humans, knowing that every rule they made would become a new tool in human hands. They tried to restrict us, He Yun said with a smile, but they actually made us stronger. Do Hyun nodded. Because now everyone knows the truth. Humans don't need to break rules to change the game. We just need to look at those rules differently than anyone else. 1 year after the Council's decision, Commander Du Hyun stood at the window of Earth's new galactic embassy. The building sat in a prime location on the Council's central world, its design mixing human creativity with alien architecture. Below him, representatives from dozens of species walked past, often glancing nervously at the Earth flag. Another trade agreement came in today, Captain He-yun said, walking into his office. The Crystalline Confederation wants to exchange technology with us. That makes 15 major agreements this month. Do-hyun smiled. It's interesting how many friends we've made since being banned from war. The past year had changed everything. The Council's ban had turned into Earth's greatest diplomatic tool. Every species in the galaxy now knew that humans could take rules and find new ways to use them. This made them dangerous enemies but valuable friends. Research Officer Yu Jin's report just came in. He-yun continued, showing him her tablet. More species are asking to learn from us. Not about fighting, but about solving problems in new ways. The report showed how human thinking had started to influence the galaxy. When a solar storm threatened a colony world, they used Earth's approach to turn their planetary shields into solar energy collectors. When a space station faced a critical failure, they copied human adaptability to turn their problem into a solution. Major Sun Mai entered the office, returning from another council session. "You won't believe what happened today," she said, trying not to laugh. 2 species almost started a war, but then someone mentioned asking humans for help. Both sides immediately agreed to peace talks. "They're that afraid of us getting involved?" He-yun asked. "Not afraid exactly," Sun Mai explained. "They know that if humans join any conflict, all their careful plans and strategies might not work. We've become the galaxy's peacekeepers simply because no one wants to deal with our creativity in warfare." Do-hyun walked to a large display showing Earth's growing connections across the galaxy. Green lines showed trade routes, blue ones showed diplomatic relations, and red ones showed potential threats. There were lots of green and blue lines, but almost no red ones. "The Council thought banning us from war would limit our influence," he said. "Instead, it forced everyone to work with us in other ways." Lieutenant Kita, who now trained alien species in emergency response, joined them with his own report. "Our latest class graduated today. You should see how excited they are, learning to think in new ways." One student turned a broken engine into a heating system. She said she thought like a human to solve the problem. "That's what Earth has always been about," He-yun said. "Taking what we have and finding new ways to use it. The Council's ban was just another rule for us to adapt to." As they looked out at the bustling galactic capital, they saw their own reflection in the window. Humans standing in an alien world, yet completely at home. Earth had found its place not through war, but through the very thing that got them banned from war: their ability to see new possibilities where others saw only fixed rules. "Maybe that's the real lesson here," Do-hyun said quietly. "The Council banned us from war because they feared how we think. But in doing so, they forced the galaxy to learn from how we think. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to fight at all." The sun set on the galactic capital, casting long shadows through the embassy windows. Earth's flag waved gently in the artificial breeze, a symbol not of military power, but of the strength that comes from seeing the world differently than anyone else.